This talk I already gave in my local community in Python Pescara, so some people from the community, so thank you for being here. And I will try to explain the title into two steps. So we can start from seeing together what can look like a Pythonic semantic search. So this is, for people that don't know, this is the Django admin. And as you can see, I search for a word. And in the results, I have words that are not similar, but related based on the context. So this is a small example of doing a semantic search. And why I'm here to speak about these things. Because I'm using Django in Python since a long time. I'm part of the community. I'm using Python. I'm a fellow of the PSF. And right now, I'm in the board of the DSF, the Django Software Foundation. I also involved in the community with the Django Girls. I've been a coach, organizer, also Django Not Space navigator. And I'm an organizer of PyCon Italia, and thank you everyone for being here. And also, as I already said, I'm the founder of Python Pescara. And so I'm using Python and Django since a long time, and I started thinking how to implement a semantic search for some project I did, and I'm trying to give back to you this. Starting from the first part of the title, if you don't know and you haven't tried to use and to import this in the shell of Python, you can read the Python from Tim Peters. My preferred part is the third one. Simple is better than complex. And when I search a word for the title, I thought about this line. I wanted to implement something that would be simple to implement, to understand, and to deploy. And we'll see how to pursue this line. Okay, a lot of people here, when think about the web and Python, think about Flask, because it's simple. This is the quick start. As you can see, there are some imports, but the important part is that in the quick start, you return a piece of HTML using a simple method. And when I spoke with people, they say, okay, Flask is very simple, Django is too complex to do this simple thing like that. Is that true? No. This is an example of the same quick start made with Django. So it's true that in the introduction, in the tutorial, you have to write a lot of different row in the code, but you can also have a Django project in 7, 8 line of code. And the core of the code are very similar to what we already saw in Flask. There is a method that returns a piece of HTML, hello world. The other great piece of code we have, and is also a sponsor here, is FastAPI. So in FastAPI, you can do a very similar thing to Flask, but it's asynchronous. And you can return a piece of JSON, which is very convenient if you are having more complex projects, services, or micro framework. And this can be great if you can do that in Django, or maybe micro Django. This is only an experiment. As you can see, you can do exactly the same things in Django. You have an asynchronous method. This is the only file you need to return the hello world, the piece of JSON code. I only show that to you not because I'm saying that Django is better than the other, because they are a great project and you have to use it if you are comfortable with that. I'm only saying that it's important to compare what is Pythonic, what is simple. You can deploy our project using a quick start in Django, in Flask, or in FastAPI, but you can use all of this to have a simple project and to create your projects. So in this talk, I'm using Django, of course. We saw, for people that were here yesterday, we have a concert of two guitarists playing Django Reinhardt, which is the guitarist from which we took the name 20 years ago. But not only because I'm expert in Django, but because we want to do very straightforward this project. The tagline of Django is web framework for perfectionists with deadline. We have deadline, I think it's 20 minutes, so we have to go quickly. This year, Django has 20 years. It's 20 years in since it's been public, and in this year, a lot of things have been implemented. One of the last is ASCII, which is the base of FastAPI and their framework. So we continue to provide innovation and feature. But I think it's the time to start to implement this web search. Okay, we need a stable version of Python. We can check in the shell with this command, and as usually, we need to create a virtual environment and install Django using pip. We saw how to implement a project in Django in one file, but it's better to start using the start project command, which creates for you all this file with the right piece of code in it. They are not complex, but it's convenient to have this created for you. And usually it creates also the setting file, which is the only one I think we are going to edit, and we are only using the other one. Inside the original project, we are going to create some object we want to store in the database. In this case, it's items, simple items. So we create an app, a separated app, to store this item. And as I said before, we need to modify the settings file only to add the items app we just created in the list of installed apps. And this is the model of our item. It's very simple. We have a context, which is a text file. We have a price and in stock Boolean. But we use the DB default attribute, which is quite new in the Django version, which can help us to have a default directly in the database. And to see this model in action, we have to create a migration. Django does this for us. And to apply this migration database, we use the other command, which is straightforward, migrate. We are going to stop a bit here and see what happens. Using the SQL migrate command, we can see actually what we are doing in the database. In this case, is SQLite, because when you create for the first time Django project, it starts using SQLite. This is the create table definition with all this field we defined, but also with an ID which is automatically created for us. Okay, now we can start to do some query on this model. We can create a list of items. Since we defined DB default, we are able to create items only to specifying some contents. And we can use the byte create to create them in one, only one SQLite execution. And we can start directly to start filtering this. Instead of using SQL code directly, we can use the filter on the object manager of items model. We try to filter about a content and some prices and stock, and this is the result. Under the hood, this is the SQL code that has been executed for us. Not so complex. It's a simple SQLite relational filter. But if you don't want to create all these items manually, we can define an admin for these items, specifying which field we want to see in the list, which filter we want to use. We can also say to Django that we want to search for it, and also we can show the faceted search on the filter. The only thing we need to create is a super user for login the admin, and we can start the project using run server command. And this is the admin that Django created for us. There's a text area, there is the price and the stock boolean. And in this way, we can easily create more than one items. Here I created item with different content, different prices, and some are stock, some are not in stock. And you can use the filter on the right and also order the columns, put some content in the search, and see what happens. And incrementally see which of these you can see. Using Django debug toolbar, you can see live all the code, SQL code that is executed, and this is the code executed for us. But, as I said at the beginning and related to the previous talk, we already reached the limit of SQLite. We want to use something more advanced. This is the header of PsychoPG project. It's also a drawing from Saint-Exupéry, the author of Little Prince. It's a snake with an elephant inside, and it explicitly what PsychoPG is. It's the driver for a Python driver for Postgres. It's published since a long time, and is part of Django ORM from the version 1, if I remember correctly, and the latest implementation, the version 3, is in Django, is supported in Django since 2 years. So it's quite new, but it's very stable and mature. To install it is very simple. In your project, we already have a virtual environment, and we can install it using pip. In this example, I use the binary version because don't require any other system packages. And in the setting, the only things you have to modify is the engine version, and you have to specify the name and password to connect. You can have the Postgres locally in Docker or remotely whenever you want. Since we have switched the engine, we have to migrate again. We have to apply the migration again in the new Postgres database we created. And we can start again to filter. We use again by creation to put some content on it. And we try to do some filters. In this case, we created 2 items, rock and rockets, and we are trying to search for rocks, which is slightly different from the content we are put on it. And as we saw, the query set is empty. But since we are just installed PsychoPG, we can try to use some hidden module, not so many used module, which is the Django country Postgres module. It lets you to use some peculiarities of Postgres. For example, we can use the lookup search. In this case, as you can see, using the under search with rocks, which is plural, we can find an item which is rock, with don't contain the plural in it. And this is because under the hoods, only using this attribute, we are using the full text search of Postgres very easily. And if we are curious about what is executed, we can use the query set we just created, and we can use SQL parse, which is one of the only dependencies of Django, to see the code we executed. As you can see, there is this type of conversion of the content to full text search vector, and we pass the word rocks to it. Under the hood, we are already starting using vectors, which is something interesting for the web search. We can also use a generated field to let the database create for us live the vector based on the content. In this case, you can see we are using the generated field, which is quite new for Django, not for database, of course. And we are saying to it that he has to create these vector fields using the search vector on the content, which is the other column, the other field to it. And it does this for us. We have to apply this on the database. We have to create a migration. We have to apply it. And since we are curious, we are going to see which SQL migrate what is happening under the hood, which is adding a column for us, a generated column for us, with the 2TS vector line you can see over there. It works also for other databases, not only for Postgres, but it's very convenient, it's very fast. And in fact, now we can search for the same full text search filter using only the vector field. And if you see under the hood what happens, it's simpler than before, because the vector is already in the vector field, and you don't have to create online. This can be very convenient and faster if you have 1 million or more data. And now we reached also the limit of Postgres, because we have used full text search, but the title said we want to do some semantic search, which is something different, and you can read also in Wikipedia what are the difference. The context is the different. We don't want to only search rocks and plural or singular. We want to search for similar words that are totally different, but are in common based on the context. What happens usually in this web search, in semantic search, usually we have a lot of data, can be text, images, or you can think about only all the things you can have. And using an embedding model, we transform all this data in vector. And to represent this vector on a simple way, we can think about vector 3 dimension. In this case, we can have in the space different words that are converted to vector, and they can be close to each other or very far. And based on the distance, on some type of way to measure this distance, we can decide that these vectors are closer or not. To store this vector, we use very good database. In this case, we have Quadrant, which I think is based on Rust. Okay, and it's very fast. It's open source. It works very well. But they can be also. They can have also pros and cons. They are very popular. You can see a lot of resources online to use it, a lot of videos or articles. But on the downside, you need a specific driver to it, and you can have some problems synchronizing it with your original database. I try to represent the flow when you some client of your project do some request, and if you store your items in the database, you have to wait the time that the vector database synchronize with your databases to perform query units. For a small project, this is not a problem, but when you scale and your project is bigger, this can be a pain point. So we came back to ask for help for our preferred database, in this case, Postgres, because we have an opportunity to use a module, PGvector, which is an extension for Postgres, to store directly the embeddings and the vector directly in Postgres. And it's worked very well now. After years of implementation, now it's fast enough to store all things. And we can use directly from Django. We only have to create a migration, an MP2 migration, in which we use the vector extension to apply it on the database. What happens under the hood after we apply the migration? We can see with SQL migration that simply we create the extension if it does not already exist. And Postgres do that for us. To use it in our original item model, we are going to add a vector field, which is a new field you can use and import from PGvector. And in this case, we are using more dimension than 3 from the example. And this is related to the model we are going to use. As before, we have to create the migration. We have to apply it. Since we are curious, we are going to see what happens under the hood. In this case, we add these columns, which is a vector of more dimension than before. And now we need something that many of you maybe know. We are going to use sentence transformers, and we are pip installing it. I cut some part of the log from the installation because it brings for you a lot of other packages. But what we need is the sentence transformer packages, because we are using the transformer to convert all the content we have to embedded vector. And sentence transformer does for us to using all the dimension we defined before. There are more. I used here a multilingual version because I'm doing some experiment with Italian and other languages. And in this case, you need something specific for that. And I only customized the save method for the item, transforming the self-content using the sentence transformer and storing it in the embedding column. I upgraded all the items, instance items, using for cycle, but you can do in different way. And I created a class method to it that used the cosine distance of the embedding to measure how close is the word you provide to them, and based on the distance, it returns you some results or other results. And you can use this method directly in the shell. In this case, searching for rock, I find music and stone and some related words. And this is what happened under the hood. We see a new type of query here. I cut all the 500 vector from it. But we can also use the same method directly from the admin. We customize the get search result and use it to apply to use the inputs we saw on the second slide and search for it. And this is what we have at the beginning. Under the hood, we store everything on Postgres, and using the admin and the Django RM, we are having our semantic search directly in Django and Postgres without using anything else, having a simpler architecture. Thank you for listening. You can download this presentation, and you can find also the slide and the article based on this topic on my webpage. And before we finish, I have to take a picture of all of you. So you can say hi. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Paolo. And so let's pass on to the Q&A. So we have a couple of questions here. Okay. Are the full text search functionalities of Postgres comparable to those of Elasticsearch or even superior?
I think it's quite similar for performance, and it's superior in terms of how simple is your architecture, because you don't need to add another piece. In certain times you need to use something like Elasticsearch, but the only times I suggest to use it is when you have a central search engine where multiple services store data. If you only have the database, have you to search on this Postgres database, it's easier and simpler for you to store everything there.
Okay, thank you. And who performs cosines, PG, or the library?
And the cosine distance are performed from the database, in particular from the extension, from PGvector, which is the extension in Postgres. So it's quite fast. You can use also from other systems, not only from the Django one. Maybe you can interact with Flask or directly with secret code. Cosine, yeah. Cuisine. Okay. Cuisine, in a few minutes, they start serving the lunch. It's close enough to go there.
So one last question. Where is the embedding ran?
In this case, the embedding is run in Python because we pip installed the sentence transformer. But there was no time to show you. There are already some extension for Postgres. So as I show you with the generated vector for the full text search, which demanded everything to the database, you can also demand everything to Postgres. And when you put a new item with a content, it generates for you the embeddings. You don't have to do anything at all, only search on it. But you have to install, of course, a new extension to Postgres, which is not a problem at all.
And thank you. And then is sentence transformer downloading things from Hugging Face?
Yeah.
I think it's that one.
Yeah.
Okay, this is talking about the transcription.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're still testing it, and it's not a specific database. That it's a generalistic word.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
okay.
That's it for today. So,
yeah,
thank you very much.
I'll be around.
If you have other questions.
Thank you.